Welcome to the Hope Talks podcast with Grayson Willis and Pastor Margaret Michael, where you'll hear inspiring stories that are filled with hope and good news in Jesus Christ. You can also search for our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, and TuneIn.
Welcome to today's broadcast of Hope Talks. I'm Pastor Margaret Michael.
And I'm Grayson Willis. Thanks for tuning in today. And today we're joined by Jeff Higgs. Jeff, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
It's good to have you with us today. I was on the parking lot last evening and got to meet your mother.
Yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy.
Yeah.
She was like, "Who's she?" I said, "That's Pastor Margaret. She's one of the good friends here at church and know her well." Said, "Oh, good."
Yeah, I guess when you just walk up to a car window and start talking to somebody.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
She seems like a real pleasant lady.
Oh, she is. She's wonderful. She's put up with me for all these years.
We do that for our kids, don't we?
Yes, indeedy.
So tell us a little bit about where you're from, how you grew up.
I was born and raised in Roanoke, and then Mom and Dad moved up to Manassas, Northern Virginia. They stayed up there until they retired and came back to the valley. Mom's originally from Elkton, Dad's originally from Shenandoah. And Dad did genealogy. Higgses have been in the valley since the mid-1700s.
Wow.
So I've got second, third, fourth cousins all up and down the valley. But then I stayed in Northern Virginia, and then after my father passed away in 2005, I moved back to the valley. And back down here now, working at UVA and volunteering at Elkton Fire.
We always ask this fun question that we forgot. And so before we got too deep into your testimony and too deep into your roots, do you have a favorite ice cream flavor or favorite?
Banana ice cream. Banana milkshakes, banana ice cream.
Have you been to Cookout and had their banana pudding?
Banana pudding, yes, that's great.
Oh my goodness.
Phenomenal. I love it.
That banana pudding milkshake.
Oh, I
man,
love it.
Grayson, you should try it.
Yes. That's a treat Steph and I will do every now and again, only because we're trying to lose a little bit of weight. But it's like, okay, we got to stop.
Yeah, that's my favorite of all their 40 flavors, I think.
Exactly. Yes, indeed.
Banana pudding milkshake. Big old hunks of banana and
Good
stuff. Vanilla wafers, all frozen.
I just had to throw that in there before we continue. But,
No worries.
You said you're from the valley and your roots are all up and down the valley, but you were in Northern Virginia for quite a few years until you said 2005 when your father passed away. And you mentioned that you're a volunteer firefighter, and I know that's very passionate for you. How did you get into becoming a volunteer firefighter?
Well, actually, it all started here in Elkton. I can remember coming down and visiting my grandparents, George and Nell Crump, and while we're there, fire whistle would go off, and Granddaddy would get up and run up to the station and go run calls. And I remember I always had an interest in it, and that must have been 5, 6, 7 years old when all this was going on, and it was always interesting. And then up in Manassas, a bunch of my buddies, their family was in the fire department. So, so I always kind of hung out there at the firehouse with the rescue squad. And then as time went on, I got more interested. And then when I turned 18, I was eligible to become a member of the fire department. That was in 79. I joined, and I have been doing emergency services ever since. This July will make 43 years as a volunteer. 43 years as a volunteer.
Thank you for your service.
I've enjoyed it, and the Lord's blessed me greatly in it. And it's just, I know it was something that He's called me to do, and to do it as a volunteer.
Yeah, and it's a calling.
It is.
You have to be passionate about that.
Yeah, it has, and I've been able to help folks, people that are in need, calls that come up. It's great life skills. When my daughter broke her arm, I was able to splint it and take her to the hospital. I've been fortunate and blessed in my career. I've delivered 7 babies in my career.
Wow.
And I can still remember my very first one, 2 months out of being cut loose as an EMT, having the first delivery. I can remember the mom coaching me through this whole thing. Breathe, Jeff, breathe. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And she was coaching me to breathe. It was like her 4th or 5th child, so she knew what was going on. She just needed a ride to the hospital. But back then, I was going down the road.
Wow.
First delivery, and it was just, phenomenal.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure you have had quite a few experiences over all of those years.
Yeah.
What kind of stands out in your mind as kind of a high water mark experience?
A high water mark for me, we had a house fire in Yorkshire. I was a young firefighter, had just been cut loose to ride on the ladder truck. And we were asked to go up on the roof and cut the roof open to allow the heat and air all to ventilate, to give the firefighters a chance to get some relief and knock on the fire. And what we do is we go up there, we throw a roof ladder on there, and we stay on the ladder the entire time. We take a chainsaw or circuit saw and we cut the roof open. But it didn't hinge right. And so I couldn't get it to hinge, so I kind of stepped off the ladder to get it. I hit it, lost my footing. My foot slid down. It was a metal roof, one of those old metal roofs. My foot came all the way down to hit the guttering. I mean, it stopped. And I would get able to get back on the ladder. Got up there, finished doing what I needed to do, and came down to take a break. And Jimmy Rice was the outgoing chief, so he was kind of like a battalion chief. And he was down there, had front sector, and he said, "Jeff, I'm so glad you were able to get your foot on the ladder and everything." I said, "No, my foot caught on the guttering, otherwise I'd come right off." He looked at me, he looked up there, he looked back at me and says, "Jeff, look up there." I looked up there, there was no guttering. He says, "There's never been any guttering up there." But my foot hit as solid as this floor right here. I mean, I was going, and it caught, but there was nothing there. There's no ice, those little clips for the ice off.
Yeah.
There was none of that. This was an old house, and it just came straight off. But my foot solid. It's solid.
God's a solid foundation.
He is.
Solid rock.
He is. I mean,
That's amazing.
And it's been things like that. That was a high water mark for me. And Jimmy, he was a Christian, and he told me, he said, "The Lord's watching out for you. He's got a plan." And I've known Christ all my life. I grew up. My dad was a deacon, elder in the church, and whatnot. But I had a crisis happen in my life, and I fell away. But even when I wasn't there, walking with God, God hadn't given up on me.
Amen.
He was there watching over me. I mean, and throughout life, he has always been there. He's always put me where I needed to be at. I was on assignment down at CDC. This was post 9/11, and just post 9/11, we were sent down to CDC. I was with my job on assignment to help out down there, and I had gone out with my program manager from my job. I went out with the director of emergency management from CDC, and we went out to a local restaurant. It was a barbecue place, and we were sitting there eating. And I remember we were sitting just like here, and I remember looking over that way, and there was a lady over there, and she started having difficulty. And all of a sudden, she put both hands up to her neck, universal choking sign. She was choking. And just like here, I just got up, walked over, did the Heimlich. She had a big hunk of meat that came blasting out, and walked back over, sat down. And the director of emergency management said, "Didn't that bother you or anything?" He says, "You're so calm about it." I said, "This is just, God has put me where I need to be."
That's right.
And that was another example. He put me where I need to be.
Yeah.
And he does that with us. And so I've tried to just go with wherever he goes. God is much like a wrestling coach too. I've been I did wrestling, I've done wrestling coach. And when you get new wrestlers, young wrestlers, they go in, they all want to win. But as a new wrestler, you're going to lose some of those matches. Well, God's that way. You're going to lose some of your matches. But in losing, you grow.
Yeah.
Even when something adverse comes your way and you're set back, there's opportunities to learn there. He's set that opportunity up for you to learn.
Yeah.
And we've just got to be open and recognize this isn't a tragedy in my life. This is a setback. But it's a setback for me to learn.
Right.
And we can't say, "Why is God doing this? Why is he doing these bad things to me?" He's not. He's allowing you to learn and grow.
Right.
Yeah.
And as a wrestler, he puts me in the next match, and I win, and then I'll have a setback, but I'll learn from that.
Yeah.
And that's
what makes us stronger. If we always won.
Yeah, you never learn anything new. And
That's right.
And he's done that throughout my life, and I've not always been where I need to be at, but God's been patient with me and watched over me and kept me safe. Had me fail.
Yeah.
But I've learned.
Yeah. We can look all through Scripture and we see heroes of the faith, we would call them, right?
Yeah.
Abraham,
Yep.
Moses, so many. And none of them were perfect, right? They had their failings when they weren't trusting God.
Right.
right?
Exactly.
But all through, like, we call, Hebrews 11 the kind of the hall of faith, where we see these men and women of God being recognized for their faith. Mm-hmm. But I've just been recently really thinking about God's the hero.
Oh, yeah.
He's the hero. It's not that Abraham or Moses did. It was when they surrendered that he became the hero, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I think, and this is what I hear in the stories that you've just told. You've made God the hero, right? It's not about you, but it's about him. Exactly. And it helps, when those things happen, it helps us to point others to Jesus. Mm-hmm. So when those bad things come, it would be really easy to go, what is happening? But when God rescues us and restores us, it makes him the hero, not us.
It does. I remember when my father died, he had Burkitt's lymphoma. Burkitt's lymphoma has a very narrow window, 2 weeks from diagnosis to death, unless it's treated. I remember Dad getting sick. I remember Mom coming in and wake me up and say, you got to take your dad to the hospital. Take him to the hospital. And they did tests all night long. And finally get a call back from UVA because they had sent some lab tests down there. Young lady happened to be doing research on Burkitt's lymphoma and just happened to recognize the markers, called back and said, this is what it is.
Wow.
So we were able to get Dad treatment. And Dad we found out later that there at RMH, he had taken the most radiation and chemotherapy that they had ever given anybody else. Mm. In June, it came back. And the doctor says, because of all that he went through, we can't give him anymore. That would kill him, as surely as the other. So he went back in the hospital. But the entire time, Dad had gone through chemo and radiation back then. And then when he went back in the hospital again, he died, yes. Mm. But through his witnessing to others, witnessing to the nurses, to the doctors, literally an entire wing of professionals came to know Christ. Wow. Through Dad's struggle, through his faith, and through his failure. Yeah. They came to know Christ. So yes, I lost my father. Dad and I didn't have the perfect relationship, but he was still my father. Mm-hmm. And I was able to celebrate. It was such an honor to be able to go with him and plan his funeral with him and be part of that. And then when it was time to celebrate his life, to lead that, I said, we're celebrating my father's life. Here's the victory. Mm-hmm. He's no longer pain. He's no longer in pain. An entire wing came to know him. He has been able to touch so many people. Yes, I've lost my father, but look at the victory. Yeah. Look at the victory.
Kingdom of God.
He was able to bring so many people to Christ. And now he's in heaven. He's no longer in pain. Things are, he's enjoying. He's going fishing and enjoying, enjoying what Christ has for him.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit last evening about having the perfect parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they're perfect, but man, seeing at the end of his life, just what a example of what God calls us to in our suffering. It still lift him up.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's not to get in a circle in the fetal position and go, this is terrible. I'm at the end of my life, but he made every minute count. Like your dad gave you that great example of sharing Christ.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that I can be half the man he was.
Yeah.
I have cancer.
Yeah.
And I've got prostate cancer. I've gone through all the stuff, gone through radiation. Been going to radiation oncologist. Just recently, my counts have gone up. And the radiation oncologist says, you're past what we can do. We got to move you on to medical oncology. Prostate cancer is not going to be a thing. It's going to kill me. It's going to be something else.
Yeah.
But I don't look at it as a deficit. I'm still going to do what the Lord's called me to do. I'm still volunteering. I'm going to do that for as long as I can. I've got the department has supported me. Jonathan and Scott Lamb. Jonathan Kibler's the chief. Scott Lamb's the president. They both said, if you need to step back a little bit, slow down a little bit, when you start doing other treatments, do it. We'll support you 100%. My job's the same way. My boss, Erin Trost, she's great. I'm blessed to have a wonderful Christian manager that I work for. And she said, you're working from home. You need to take some time.
Yeah.
We're good. But I view, even though I've got this coming on, I view it as an opportunity for Christ to show, I'm suffering this, but my faith is still strong, and I still believe, and I'm still being allowed to do so much.
Yeah.
The stuff that I enjoy, stuff that God's called me to do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to fight the fight, and I've got a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful partner he's brought into my life.
Tell us a little bit about that chapter of your life. I just recently got to sit and experience, be a part of a wedding.
Yeah.
And so tell us about, how did you meet Steph Cignarino?
So let me back up many years, back to probably
Yes, please do.
Probably 1998 or so. My mom and dad had a Cornerstone Church. Dad was one of the elders there. And they had a big get-together at their farm for all the people to come. So I came down, and Steph happened to be there because she came with Charlie and Odessa and the family and brought kids. And they happened to have a heart attack occur at the thing. I was a paramedic at the time, so I sat there and treated the patient. And we loaded him up in the car, went down here to Elkton Rescue, transfer on that. Steph remembers that. Doesn't know who I was, but she remembers that event. That was when our paths first crossed. Fast forward to probably 20 months ago. I figure, okay, well, now's probably a good time for me to go out. I know the Lord wants me to be with somebody. I'm okay being by myself, but I feel like I need to be with somebody. So I went to Match.com. Steph had gone to Match.com. And she had gotten with her daughter, Brianna. Brianna said, these are all the things you do and you don't do.
Yeah, she told me.
Sit there, and if you go on the first date, you go by yourselves. You make sure your best friends are there sitting by the bathroom. So if this is a bad date, you can sit there and go to the bathroom, come back. Oh, look who's here. It's Margaret and Grayson. And, hey, let's all get together. That way you've got to easy out.
Right.
So we met online, and we started chatting online a little bit. And then we started talking, and we started calling each other. And finally, she said, what's your last name? I said, Jeff Higgs. She says, Higgs. I said, well, everybody knows my mom and dad, Ed and Mary Higgs. You're Ed and Mary's son. Yes, I am. Well, come to find out, our parents had known each other for years and years and years. So Steph had talked to her mom and dad, and Odessa said, oh, that's Ed and Mary's son. He'll be just fine. So we wound up getting together, and our very first date, we went, it was September 10th. We went to Red Lobster, and she said, okay, I'm not going to have all those safeguards, but we wound up sitting there for probably 3 to 4 hours, and we put everything out on the table. Yeah. All of our past, everything's going on, my cancers, all the trials I've gone through, stuff like that. And one of the things that came out of that, she told me about Church in Nazarene, said, hey, we're looking up at East Rock campus, and we've been looking everywhere. And I said, well, we're no longer doing bingo at the activity center, and we don't know what we're going to do with the building. This might be an opportunity. So on the way home, driving her back, she's on the phone with Jared, Pastor Jared. Say, hey, we might have an opportunity. I'm on the phone with Scott and Jonathan. Hey, I think we might have somebody that can be able to rent or lease or do something with the bingo hall. So it's not.
That's amazing.
And then from there, East Rock campus came. And it's
wow. And you all got married there.
We got married. I joined Church of Nazarene there. We got married there. We opened up there. The Lord has just, the opportunities, again, who'd have thought? Yeah. Two people come together. Fire department's got a need. Church has got a need.
And through that relationship. So how far were your all's homes from each other?
Boy, I tell you, long-distance relationships are tough. She said she had a maximum that I'll go no more than 50 miles. I had, mine was 25. We lived 3.5 blocks from one another. So yeah, this long-distance relationship was tough.
It's so amazing, like that you all lived that close.
Never met each other.
And had such connections. Yeah. And when you've been through the stuff that you and Steph have been through, you've had some tough stuff.
Oh, we have.
And just to see God just work out those details in undeniable ways.
Oh, yeah. And we've both talked about it at length. Had we met 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we would have been younger. We weren't ready for each other. God had a plan.
Yeah.
And he was not ready to bring us together until now.
Yeah.
Now's the time.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things we knew in our hearts. I knew from that first date when I met her, when I met Stephanie Lynn Cignarino, this is the woman God has brought me to find.
Yeah.
And I knew then But like Steph said, have we not learned anything in our past relationships?
Right.
So the most our relationship had lasted was 6 months before we got married. We waited 18 months. She really wanted to know what it was with me being with the fire department, getting up in the middle of the night and running out.
That's a commitment.
And she wanted me to understand her children's ministry. Now, we did have our first interesting night worth of calls. She got up I think it was Tuesday morning, we run calls all night. She got up and looked at me and says, "I'm grumpy. I didn't get enough rest." I said, "Okay." So that Wednesday night, I turned my pager off. And no calls.
Yeah. You got to find that balance.
Yeah. But she's been great. I mean, I've gotten up from, go over to eat dinner at Charlie and Odessa's, and tones will go off, and I'll get up and go.
Yeah.
We've been coming back from the church, and the tones are dropped, and she's dropped me off at the firehouse, and I said, "I'll catch a ride home." And we've had things like that come up. But she has been great, and she understands what it is, what drive, that there's this drive, that this is a gift that God's given me, blessed me with.
Yeah.
But she does say, "You really need to rest, Jeff. You should really slow down, maybe not." And so, like I said, the other night, turn the pager off so we both get some rest.
Yeah. Well, and
I'm not getting any younger.
And with what you've had going on with your body, I know it is important. So God's given that gift of finding balance, and she'll help you. She'll let you know.
She does. And we both speak the truth on everything, even if it hurts or if it's not uncomfortable. We both speak the truth, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it balances us. I am blessed beyond measure. God's given me so much, and bringing her to me, it's just beyond words.
Yeah.
Right. Jeff, you talked about the East Rock campus and just kind of how God had it perfectly orchestrated, the partnership between the fire department and East Rock campus, and how they had a building that wasn't being used, and East Rock needed a building to meet in. And just talk about, and I know you and Steph both serve and are integral parts in the East Rock campus. So if you just want to share about how you serve there. And
Sure. So primary thing I do is I do the sound system. I do that. Secondary role is safety and security there. I rotate on and off the sound system. I do it a lot. But Easter weekend, I was rotated off. It was an opportunity. We needed to have somebody help herd the kids when they did the Easter egg hunts.
Oh, yes.
The Lord created an opportunity. And so I was there. And it works out good. I enjoy what I do. It's an opportunity. And the thing of it is, the Lord opens up so many different doors for you to do so many different things. I mean, I help coordinate between the department and the church, some of the activities. We're going to help out. Fire department's going to have a pageant. They want to borrow our sound system. Okay, I'll help out with the sound system.
Yeah.
It's worked out well, and I enjoy serving there. And again, it's different opportunities. He just doesn't want me to be sound system. He doesn't want me to just be security system.
Yeah.
And I've actually had a couples come up and said, "We're going to adopt you as our dad. You're a church dad."
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
So it's been great.
Yeah.
And it's a small corner that's just we're right where we need to be to serve the East Rock area, East Rockingham.
Yeah. I was in North Carolina, and I ran into a lady right as we were beginning to. I think we knew when we were going to take the building, like when that was going to happen, when that lease would begin. And I was in North Carolina, and I was talking to a lady, and she's from Ruckersville, and just ran into her randomly. She's like, "Yeah, I'm coming up to play bingo at the bingo hall at Elkton." Like, don't think that's probably going to happen this year. And that was right. It's just like that you'd run into someone that knows God. It's amazing how he worked out all those details, and I'm sure she got to play bingo somewhere.
maybe she ended up coming to church.
She might end up coming to church. She actually is one of the farms that we have through CNC Farm Supply. She was a part of. I knew exactly who she was when she said her name. Yeah. Well, I just want to touch on one thing. You mentioned briefly, kind of in a passing comment, about 9/11. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything you can share with us?
I remember exactly where I was. I was working secure communications with the IRS in New Carrollton, Maryland, the opposite end of the Orange Line. And I remember the guys coming in, and there at that, most government buildings get TVs out in the hallway. I remember the guys coming in and saying, hey, there's been an incident. I remember going out, and I remember watching the second plane run into the towers. And I thought it was a rerun. They're just replaying. They said, no, this is live. And then we heard about the Pentagon. And I remember telling all the guys, okay, we can do remote support from home. Grab your laptops. We're shutting down operations here. Go to your homes. Work from there. And I remember catching the last subway on the Orange Line, because it went right past the Pentagon. Catching the last one from there all the way to Vienna, which is the opposite end.
Yeah.
I remember getting out and getting in my car. And there was a bunch of us that were on the subway. We're all volunteers out in Prince William County, Fauquier County. I remember all of us getting out, taking our red lights, putting on top of the cars, and we went down the left-hand shoulder of the road. I remember state police seeing us and gave us an escort as far as Centerville, and we kept on going. And I remember I had gotten hold of Dad to let him know what had happened. My son was in high school at the time, and our thing had always been, if something significant happens, we meet at the firehouse. And I tried calling him. Of course, the lines had gotten clogged by then. I couldn't get through. I was concerned, but I wasn't worried.
Yeah.
Because I had been taking Adam on call since he was a tyke. When I was a medic, I'd take a chase car home if I knew I had a junior to drive the chase car, or Adam. So he grew up in that environment.
Yeah.
He was a junior at the firehouse where I was at. I remember getting home, going up there, and there he was. Because the phone lines were locked down, the radios were saying go to local firehouses. And here he was. He was setting up a first aid station in our bingo hall there in Manassas, getting ready. I remember going up there and us all being on standby. And normal staffing in Prince William runs right around 87 to 90%. We went to like 115% staffing. We brought in all the reserve apparatus, put it in service. At our station, we had a phenomenal working relationship between volunteer and career. A lot of departments we want to keep our same people together.
Yeah.
Our volunteer chief and the career battalion chief got together, and they put the best of the best on the apparatus. Our ladder truck was staffed fully with 6 people, and it was 3 volunteers and 3 fire, because 3 of the guys that we had on there from the volunteer side were truckies. I mean, they were die-hard special operations type guys. Engine, same way. We had normal staffing as 3 or 4, and we had 6 on there. And again, we had a mixture of career and volunteers. Medic units were staffed fully. I mean, we had 4 people in each of the medic units. We had 3 medic units put up at that time. Normally, we only had 1. But it was amazing to see the level of commitment. We had police with shotguns, with their AR-15s in the parking lot guarding the stations.
Wow.
And during that time, when we got a call, we had cars pull up on mediums, pull out of our way to allow us to get where we needed to go after the whole 9/11 thing. 3-4 months later, it went right back to taking the time, slowly getting out of the way, maybe getting out of the way.
Yeah.
People forgot.
Yeah.
And to where we're at, where we are today, people don't care.
Yeah.
But 9/11, I remember that so vividly. And just us back, Fairfax had got pulled into the Pentagon. And so all of our stations had to backfill to Fairfax. We transferred engines from Stonehouse, Volunteer Fire Company, to Centerville and Fairfax to backfill, because all those units were at the Pentagon.
Right.
And we were having to backfill.
Yeah.
And it was just the brotherhood and sisterhood within the fire department and within emergency services in general is very tight.
Yeah.
And that's what it was then.
Yeah.
It still is. I mean.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Jeff, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your service in fire and rescue and service in the church, and thank you for joining us today to share your testimony. It's been great to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to today's broadcast of Hope Talks. We pray that as you've heard Jeff Higgs' testimony, that today's broadcast truly has been a half hour of hope for your life. May God bless.
Hope Talks is sponsored by Church of the Nazarene Harrisonburg in partnership with Sunshine Ministries. Thanks for listening to today's podcast of Hope Talks. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe for updates and the latest episodes. Also, if you're in the Harrisonburg, Rockingham County area, we invite you to listen on the radio each Sunday at noon on 1470 AM or 102.1 FM WBTX.